Charlie Kirk is dead. Let's talk about it. He was murdered for speaking. His wife is now a widow. His children fatherless. And the radicals, they cheer. They flood the internet with tasteless videos of their jubilation. They smile, they sing, they celebrate. These are not people looking for dialogue, tolerance, or mutual respect. These are demons draped in human skin. They dance on his grave. And you know what? They'd dance on yours too if they could. The book of Isaiah says, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness." And that is exactly what we see here. This ideology is our enemy, for it is the enemy of God and what is right. Understand this fact. They want you out of the way, just like they wanted Charlie out of the way. But why? Because you believe in objective truth? Because you believe that a woman doesn't have a penis? Because you believe that 5-year-olds shouldn't be told they were born in the wrong body? Because you believe that a baby in the womb isn't just a clump of cells? Because you believe that a man cannot change the weather? Because you believe that the government is not God? Let me be clear. If these radicals had the opportunity, the means, and knew they could get away with it, they would do to you what they did to Charlie Kirk. This is not an exaggeration. They have shown their face. We once believed in dialogue, in some shared sense of humanity. That illusion is over. When one side celebrates murder, the talking has ended. Charlie was once asked, why did he do what he did? Why did he put himself in positions of great harm? Why did he go onto these college campuses to try and speak to the next generation? You know what he said? He answered, when people stop talking, that's when you get violence, and that's when civil war happens. Because you start to think that the other side is evil, that they lose their humanity. Charlie never wanted violence. He never called for it. He understood that violence destroys while speech creates, while speech builds. His mission was this, just to talk, to debate, to reason, even when those who opposed him screamed, shouted, and threatened. He believed that through words, hearts could be moved and minds could be changed. He placed faith in the power of speech. Charlie grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, the son of hard-working parents who instilled in him a love for conservative values. At just 18 years of age, while most of his peers were preoccupied with teenage distractions, Charlie was already thinking about how he would defend freedom. He founded Turning Point USA from nothing, just a vision, a few leaflets, and boundless determination. From humble beginnings, he built one of the largest and most influential conservative youth organizations that the world has ever seen. His success was not the product of privilege or the product of luck. It was born of preparation, humility, and a willingness to listen. And he listened to his audience, he listened to his critics, and he listened to the truth of history and of scripture. He didn't run from confrontation. He leaned into it with words, armed only with conviction and reason. That is how at such a young age he rose to national prominence, because he boldly believed that speech, not silence, was the path forward. Well, they killed him for it. They murdered him in front of thousands for it. And we know what is coming next, unrest. We see it in the UK, in Europe, and in America, where radical left-wing extremism is accelerating in horrifying ways. A sniper opened fire on an ICE field office in Dallas, killing and wounding. Investigators found anti-ICE messaging associated with the attack. And Homeland Security, well, they've warned of the serious threat to ICE officers and facilities nationwide. Days after that targeted attack, hundreds of rioters gathered outside an ICE processing centre in Illinois, chanting at staff and escalating confrontations. They chanted, "Arrest ICE, shoot ICE." We have also seen places of worship become targets. A brutal attack on a church in Grand Blanc, Michigan, where a gunman drove into a chapel, set the building alight and opened fire. It left the congregation grieving, and now the FBI is leading a major federal inquiry. And let's not forget the Annunciation Church and School in Minneapolis. Children killed, scores wounded. The attack is being investigated as domestic terrorism and a hate crime. The murder of Irina Zarutska is another brazen example of the failure to protect the innocent when left-wing policies let dangerous individuals cycle through the system. And let's not forget the 2 attempts on President Donald Trump's life by the radical left. This is the reality. Radical left-wing extremism, violent, organised and animated by ideological hatred, is on the rise. It is not an exaggeration to call it an emergency. Where radical rhetoric festers, domestic terrorism follows. We see elected officials and influential public figures use dehumanising language, calling their political opponents cookers, Nazis, fascists and far right. That rhetoric has consequences. Social media posts that rail against individuals and institutions and that paint certain public servants as enemies help create the conditions in which assassination and terror feel legitimate to a deranged minority. President Trump and the federal government have responded by naming Antifa as a domestic terror threat and are moving to dismantle networks that plan and carry out domestic terror. Make no mistake, the response must be lawful, robust, and immediate. We will not trade liberty for cowardice. We will not accept a society where the only language that matters is the mob. To those who cheer murder, history will remember your depravity. To those who mourn Charlie and every other victim of left-wing domestic terrorism, let that grief harden into lawful resolve. Here is the urgent, blunt truth for Australians listening today. Where America goes, Australia will follow. Ideas, fashion, rhetoric, and movements travel across the Pacific faster than ever. We are only some years behind. Antifa and radical left networks already stage protests and violent disturbances in our cities. We have seen them hold Melbourne streets hostage for years. If we do not act now, we will be importing that terror onto our shores. Australia must not wait. We must act while we still can and formally recognise far-left extremist networks as domestic terrorists where the legal threshold is met. We must strengthen protections for our law enforcement and our vulnerable institutions, and we must prosecute those who plan, fund and carry out terror. Designating Antifa-style groups as terrorist entities where supported by evidence and a lawful process is an option that we should and must urgently examine. History suggests that division this deep cannot be healed by slogans, hashtags or empty gestures. That we are well past the point of reconciliation. The mood of the nation is changing. I, for one, will not beg for reconciliation. I will not plead to reopen dialogue, and I will not call for unity with people who celebrate murder. That time has passed. The radicals have crossed the line that cannot be uncrossed. There is only one way forward, the complete dismantling of this evil ideology. You do not negotiate with evil. You do not compromise with it. As the Holy Bible tells us, we must put on the whole armour of God so that we can stand against evil. Or to put it much more simply, and to quote the great President Trump, we must fight, fight, fight. These radical extremists are not just a political nuisance. They are an existential threat to our country, our way of life, and to our civilization. They scream about tolerance and crawl through our institutions and our halls of power like the insects that they are, while having no tolerance for anyone that doesn't subscribe to their twisted worldview. But let us remember what Charlie Kirk's life teaches us. We must have a role to play in the defense of truth. Not all of us will speak to thousands. Not all of us will build movements or stand on stages. But every one of us can do a little bit of what Charlie did. Every one of us. We can talk to our neighbours, our friends, our co-workers, even those who disagree with us. We can debate, persuade and reason. We can refuse to stay silent in the face of lies. If Charlie's life shows us anything, it is that one voice, just one, lifted with courage can echo across a nation. And if each of us follows his example, speaking the truth with conviction, then together we can make our nation stronger, freer, and more united in truth. We will not be silenced. We will not descend to the mob's level. We will answer their cruelty with law, with faith, and with relentless courage, because courage is contagious. Be brave. Charlie's life must not be in vain. Let his murder remind us of what we are fighting for: liberty, truth, civilization itself. Let our grief be transformed into action, lawful, decisive, unyielding action to protect our people and our way of life. May God comfort Charlie's family. May he strengthen our hearts. And may Charlie's memory inspire us to dismantle the darkness that would murder our civic order and our children's future. They have shown their face. Now it is time for us to show them ours. God bless Charlie Kirk. God bless his family. And God bless Australia. I'm Senator Alphabet for United Australia Party.